Welcome to the latest series of the podcast, where we bring you the latest insights into the future of digital commerce. In Season 6, we continue to interview some of the most respected professionals in the industry as we broaden the topics to cover what it takes to build a business within e-commerce, navigating through business change, as well as the future of technology within digital commerce. As we continue our journey to have one of the best podcasts within commerce, we ask you to like and share within your network if you enjoy our content. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast, the future of all things digital commerce. Today, I'd like to welcome Mike Jones, CTO for Love Holidays, and our first guest from the travel and tourism industry. Love Holidays has grown to become the third largest packaged holiday company in the UK, and today we're going to find out how they have used technology to not just get them there, but to enable them to continue to scale at pace in the future. Welcome, Mike.
It's great to be here. Thanks, James.
Thank you. Now, not long ago, Mike was doing a talk at the Google Travel event, so it's great to have you on the show. But before we jump in, do you want to do a quick 60-second summary of yourself and your career to date?
Yeah, of course. Mike Jones, I'm CTO of Love Holidays, as you said. So I've always been really interested in technology, even as a kid. So it was a strange decision when I started started my career as a consultant. So instead of trying to create things, I was trying to teach people how to do programming. So I had quite a long career as a consultant, but which ended up at a company called ThoughtWorks, which was an amazing technology organization. Learned a lot from there. But ultimately got bored of just trying to enable people and wanted to kind of own problems. So I left ThoughtWorks, joined a startup which is called Forward. One of the things I talk about is I had the the privilege of creating 9 failed startups in 12 months, which was quite an achievement. But a few of them really worked. One was a search arbitrage kind of system that we scaled massively. And with that money, we ended up acquiring Uswitch, which was a price comparison website. We bought it for 5 million after it had been sold a few years earlier for kind of about 300 million pounds. So it was a company that needed turning around. So my background in terms of consultancy, like startups, I was put in there as a CTO with alongside my friend Paul. And over the kind of 10 years, kind of helped scale that business, sold it 3 times. The last was a 2.2 billion delisting as part of ZPG, which was a really interesting story about how you could take a business that had a great business model, but just replace the technology and just see how it can fly. But I was always told by my mentor, it doesn't count if you only scale one business, you have to scale 2. So I was always on the lookout for the next one. So then Love Holidays came knocking. They were the fastest growing business in the UK, like #1 of the Times profit track at the time. So I was really excited to join, but more excited when I kind of looked at the way that the organization was structured, the technology itself. It was great for travel, but maybe not great if you take a broader market view. And I could just see all of the opportunity of applying all the learnings for the 10 years at Uswitch. And that's what we've been doing for like the last 5.5 years. So we've tripled the size of the business. We grew kind of revenues by like 10x in that time. And it's all been like underpinned by really the technology transformation that we've been applying.
Awesome. You say nine failed startups in 12 months. Is that right?
Yeah. So I joined an organization that was called Traffic Broker at the time. The owner, kind of Neil Hutchinson, he had kind of innovation lab, was coming up with just new startup ideas to try and build businesses around. And so over the course of kind of 12 months, we came up with like lots of different ideas, tested them out, see what would work, see what didn't. Just learn so much about actually technology, weirdly, what you need to do, how to the corners you should cut, the corners you shouldn't cut, like the connection between the technology and business. And it was really there. One of the principles we have at Love Holidays is technology is just a means to an end. It's about the business outcome, and I kind of really learned that by trying to apply these kind of technology ideas to build startups. It was a really, really interesting time. Learned so much. Very, very kind of creative.
Nice. I mean, there's a whole host of motivational quotes about failure, but look, I think it's safe to say that it's not a failure if you learn from it, right? And I'm sure each and every one of those 9 failures that has led you to to where you are now, like you say. So
Yeah, it was a evolution. I think I do jiu-jitsu, and my kind of black belt that runs the gym always says you either win or learn, and it was definitely something we learned a lot during that time. So I 100%. But the thing was, we learned. We failed quickly. We had an idea, we tested it, we took the learnings from that into the next idea, and it wasn't, sorry, I mean, it was ultimately we ended up building something that was super valuable, was like generating like a lot of profit for the company that led us to be able to acquire Uswitch. And it was the foundation of a couple of businesses that span out from that as well. So there was a lot of there was a lot of success, but it was just the ability to be able to like test things out in that kind of environment. Just a very, as I said, very creative, like learned a lot.
awesome. Well, love to hear it, Joe. It's great to hear about these success stories, right? And how you can turn what could be seen as a negative into a positive, and obviously look where it's got you now with obviously the successful exit of Uswitch and obviously the growth of Love Holidays. So yeah, I guess let's jump in with Love Holidays then. So you've been in the industry since 2019. So how has technology evolved during that time?
Well, I suppose the technology within like travel has probably remained quite static during that time. So like coming from other industries, having seen like a lot as a consultant, like the work like in comparison, the travel itself hasn't really ever been that kind of cutting edge. There's a couple of businesses like kind of Airbnb, that are kind of pushing the boundaries, but like travel itself has remained static, mostly as in the partners that we work with. It's I think the broader ecosystem of technology that's changed a lot. So there's been an increase in commoditization of products. Like we're seeing things like Sanity has been a really good partner with us from a CMS. Like working with Google, where we've really invested in their platforms and integrated that. Obviously, the rise of all the AI kind of capabilities recently. So over the last 5 years, it's been less like evolution in travel itself, but the evolution of technology more generally, and our ability to apply that into Love Holidays to make our business faster, more reactive, and create better customer outcomes.
Awesome. So I mean, ultimately, you guys define yourself as a technology business within travel, as to an actual travel business, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think from when I started at Love Holidays, it was the original founders were there. They like really smart people. They'd come up with like they understood travel. They understood what we needed to kind of do to compete. They came up with this idea of any search. It's like what, not where. So you can describe the holiday that you want rather than like the features of it. So it's like rather than like the destination you want to go to, you can say things like it should be 3 hours away, this temperature, that. So they built a search capability that did that. But I suppose what they were good at is like figuring out like is that startup mentality about how to kind of like figure out and solve those problems. I kind of came in like early on to help scale those capabilities. Like very shortly after the new CEO joined as well. And we kind of hit it off from the start. And I think one of the conversations with him that I kind of always remember is, and he said that to me, is we need to stop thinking about ourselves as a travel company that does tech and start thinking about ourselves as a technology company that just happens to be in travel. Like we need to build a platform, a capability that kind of underpins everything that's driven by technology. And it's that kind of drive that he's put in the company, and that kind of investment that he wants to make in technology that's really allowed us to kind of see the growth that we have.
Awesome. Okay. So what sort of investment does that actually require then? Because this isn't cheap, right?
It's neither. Well, so I suppose like the way that we would approach it, not in a kind of hyperscale, just hire a load of people. I think there's a couple of things that you really need to think about when you're looking to kind of transform a company around technology. I think the first thing you need to really understand is the influence of the organizational structure on the technology itself. So one of the first things that the CEO allowed me to do was to kind of really think about the operating model of the organization. So we moved away from what was characterized really as like one big technology team. So the result of that had been this kind of huge monolithic systems that they built. And those monoliths, often they're really hard to change. They're expensive to run. They're not really that resilient to scale. So knowing we needed to change that, I think the best approach that you can do is really create the organization that you want. Well, how can I say this better? Sorry. The idea is like there's a concept which is Conway's law, which is the way that you structure your organizational structure will reflect the way that your architecture is, and we try to reverse engineer that. So we created the organizational structure that would deliver the architecture that we wanted. So we broke apart the kind of big team into smaller teams, and it was that was driving out our ability to really decompose the monolith, break it into smaller pieces. And that was like really fundamental, and moving away from this one big system to a service orientated architecture, and something that we think that we can actually, that could scale. I think if that was the first one, which was really about the importance of the organizational structure and the technology, I think the other one was really helping the technology teams understand their impact on the business. So one of the things I learned with working in startups is just, as I said, technology is a means to an end. It's the impact that makes a difference. If you talk in terms of business outcomes, you get to do really interesting stuff. So the second thing was really investing in the teams, helping them understand their KPIs, and then giving them the awareness of the impact that they're having on the business. And then kind of the third real big thing we did was just allow people to make a difference. Like autonomy, decision making is really important when as you're transforming organizations, there's so much stuff that needs to get done in parallel. So having people be able to make those decisions, having the autonomy to do that is the kind of the third thing that has really helped.
Definitely, I think whenever you modernize the technology, you have to modernize the business, right? Both obviously the processes and sometimes the people as well. Did you find that when you joined the company, there was a shift in the sort of person that you were looking for your team, or not?
Yeah. I think it changes, right? I would describe it, there's three phases that we've gone through as a business. There's a startup where you're finding the business model. There's a scale up where we've been trying to scale that business model, to work with more customers, more people in the organization, more things to do in parallel, to where we are now, which is scaling out. So taking our business model and replicating it in more markets and points of sale. And so the challenges with each of those areas are different. And so you need often different types of people in each of those phases. So what works as a startup, people who want to be more generalist, can work across a number of areas, a number of technologies. It's kind of different as you move to a scale up, where you need really kind of specialist understanding of various different technologies to help it work at scale. And again, the kind of where we are now with scaling out, thinking about things in terms of platforms. So yes, there is categories of people that can or skills that you need across there. But I think what I found really kind of interesting at loveholidays is the people that have been on the journey with us. There's still quite a few people that are with us from the early days, that even before I joined. Okay. One of the things we've been talking about recently is we had an offsite. We had a technology and platform offsite, and my colleague George, he summed up the number of packages that we process, and they presented this number. So just to put it into context, we have 40,000 hotels on our platform. We have 99% of all kind of routes out of the UK on our platform. And the combination of those things with the dates that you can go on, the number of people in that package, ends up with about 6 trillion different package combinations a day, which is, every time we process it. And this year in total, we've processed 1 quadrillion packages, which is mad. So
What does that even look like?
yeah,
1 quadrillion.
yeah, 1 quadrillion is around the number of grains of sand which are actually on Earth, which is mad. So
Wow.
and that's kind of where we kind of the scale that we're kind of working at now. And one of the interesting things that George said is it's a guy called Mark, who's been here from the beginning and has helped navigate that. So he's been through this process where it was a startup, where it was figuring out, how to do the business model, all the way through to where we are now, is where he's processing more packages than there are grains of sand on Earth, which is mad. So he's been through that journey. He's been there with us, and he's really kind of well, hopefully he's felt like he's learned a lot along the way. So there are definitely people who have who can go on that journey. Obviously, it's not right for everybody. People kind of opt in and out at various different stages. But I've always said, like, it's really useful for people to go from startup all the way through to something that's a bit more, which is a bit bigger, because you can see the entire kind of spectrum of a company. I've been lucky enough to go through that a few times, and if you see that kind of spectrum, you can figure out where you fit. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, yes, I suppose in general there are different needs of those different times. But I think it's great when you can see people who kind of come along that journey with you.
Definitely, and it speaks volumes as well, because I did have a quick look through LinkedIn over the last couple of weeks, and you definitely have a very good staff retention. And in technology, that's really hard. There's been if you remove the last year or so, the technology market has been thriving for a lot of your time with Love Holidays, and people get approached about jobs and salaries go up, and when you have staff that stay with you for a long time, it shows they're obviously happy in what they do and they're learning, and probably paid well as well. But a lot of people work to be somewhere that they enjoy and that they're feeling challenged, and they can develop their career. So
100%. So from day one, making an environment that was enjoyable to work in was one of my kind of goals and motivations. It's what actually led me to be a CTO, if I'm honest. Like creating an environment that I wanted to work in. I got the really kind of those opportunities at the startup at Uswitch to kind of, like, people gave me a lot of space and to learn and figure things out for myself. I wanted to kind of provide that. So coming into Love Holidays, one of the first things we did was we started an engagement survey just for the team. So we used like the team health check from Spotify, and we've been running that every quarter, quarter to 6 months for the last 5.5 years. And we've seen kind of engagement over that time broadly increase by about 40%. So it's something that we talk about a lot, that we measure, we get feedback from teams, and we're trying to really like invest in creating a really engaging environment for people to work in. It's challenging. There's a lot going on. There's it's difficult at times, but I think that it's the fact that it's a little bit more difficult, that we are challenging, we are pushing the boundaries. We've done a couple of world firsts. It makes it even that more enjoyable. And as you said, right, one of the things we try and do is like not totally take money off the table, but make sure that we're positioned ourselves like in the market appropriately for our kind of salary range. It's something that we've done like over those 5 years, even during COVID, just making sure that we're like where we want to be in the market, so we can not only kind of retain the people who are already here, but attract new people. Because often people like paying you for like people that are coming in. We've tried to avoid that. We set clear kind of salary bands, and we make sure that those are maintained regardless of how difficult it's been for the business.
Okay, and Joe, that's important as well, because I mean, not so much now, but I know I've had experience in the past where someone will join a company and they'll be paid X, but other people in the team are paid Y, and I mean, obviously over time that gets out, and obviously then you're going to lose the staff that you have because they're going to feel undervalued and what have you. So, I think it's good that you have that clear guidelines and what have you. And I also think talking about whilst we're on the subject, that everyone wants to have the best person that they can do for their team for obvious reasons, but actually attracting said professional to your business is hard, because I guess people don't go through education and then start their career and think, Joe, I want to have a career within travel and tourism, for example, right? But it's how Love Holidays has been able to brand itself as a leader within technology to attract those types of professionals as well.
100%. It's again so spot on. It's not about like travel and tourism itself. A lot of the time, it's the way that we're approaching technology, the things that you get to do, like the scale of the thing that you can work on. So, as I said, like a trillion package combinations, like mental. But we have 26 million people visit the website each month. So, like that sort of scale is like interesting. It creates like interesting problems to work on. Again, my colleague George just spoke at GopherCon recently. He talked about some of the innovations that we're doing around how we make sure that our services are scalable. We have a service called Albot, which hunts at night for issues with our systems. So we run the previous day's traffic up to 10x. And so he gave a talk on what we did there, how that service works, the fact that we've open sourced it for everybody to use as well, like how it's kind of providing innovation. And from that, it's been the same in each of the different businesses I work at. When you talk about like the cool things that you do, it's like people are really interested. Like often they just get to read about these things on the internet through people's blogs, but like we actually do these things and we actually set some standards. We're open sourcing a lot. We're kind of pushing the boundaries in a number of areas. So it's like hopefully people find it enticing. It seems that do when we talk about it externally, and it's one of the reasons why we have such a high retention here.
Nice. Well, it certainly sounds cool. And I mean, some of the figures that you've discussed, obviously the one quadrillion, I can't even say the word, is just huge. And it's that kind of scale that's going to entice people, like you said, entice and retain. I mean, I haven't actually bought a holiday through Love Holidays yet. However, I have spent quite a bit of time on the website in the lead up to this call, and I must say it is very, very quick. So it's clearly working.
Yeah, like that's something that we've really invested in a lot. So another one of our technology principles is like focus on differentiation. So where we want to use our kind of engineering effort not to repeat things that other people have done, but like make a difference in travel. And so we've invested in things from like how we integrate with supply all the way through to traffic acquisition. But the search part is, again, one of the kind of the core pieces of Love Holidays. It's blazingly fast, as you said. Our ambition is to provide something that's more akin to a Google and Amazon experience than it is your kind of traditional OTA, where things are spinning around, where you're waiting for stuff. And so it's we have like kind of P95. We have a sub 150 millisecond response time, like searching across like a huge kind of like huge set of offers that customers can like provide back to customers. Those are also kind of priced in real time as well. So there's a load of really kind of interesting like problems at that scale to enable such a like we are like ultimately focused on customer outcomes because we're we're doing this, like as I said, technology is a means to an end. But the fact that we're focusing on the customer outcomes allows us to actually do some of the kind of really innovations in technology.
Yeah, and it works, right? I mean, we're in a day and age where customers they get distracted. They don't want to wait. So if you're not instant, then they're going to go elsewhere. And chances are they've probably got EasyJet, TUI, BA up on their browser as well, right? And it's whatever comes back quickest or what have you. So okay, I mean, you mentioned at the start that the technology within travel hasn't changed that much, but it's what it's capable of doing. So I guess what single piece of technology would you say is driving the most change within the industry, or at least for you guys anyway?
The single piece of technology is, I suppose it's difficult. It's more, I would suggest, as technology broadly evolves, things are becoming more commoditized. There's increasing number of platforms that are available. And what we're trying to do is ensure that each of those platforms are integrated into our business. We do that in such a way that we take the organization and break it down into teams that are focused on business problems. And each of those business problems then can think about the right platforms that they need to be able to solve that. So if you're thinking about, like, again, the kind of web experience being really fast, we partner with Fastly. We use their kind of edge systems to be able to test on. The other, we partner with Sanity to build a headless CMS, which is absolutely amazing, all the way through to the kind of GCP estate that we're using to kind of host the systems. On the managing side, there's like the post-booking experience. It's much more commoditized. So we're, again, working with Google. We've partnered with their kind of CCAI platform. We use a lot of their tools and we build on top of that. So I think it's been the ability to integrate so many different platforms into our estate, into our single platform. That's allowing us to move fast, and it's giving us that kind of edge in a number of areas. But obviously, recently with the kind of rapid rise of Gen AI, it's the integration of that into our business is having quite an impact. But it's much more kind of operational than it is perhaps the kind of from a technology perspective. So we provide not only platforms for our customers and suppliers to be able to kind of interact with our platform, because we're now in like multiple markets, serving multiple product types. We have teams that operate it. We have teams that trade the platform, that acquire the customers, that help set up the platform, that set up the supply. And for those people, we're enabling them through Gen AI. And one of the things that we've integrated into our kind of CMS, like Sanity, is the ability to kind of automatically write content. To give you an example, which would be, we have a content team of 3 people. They could manage about, say, 2,000 hotels, rewrite them kind of once a month. With the help of Gen AI integrated into our kind of CMS, they can now rewrite the entirety of our estate of holiday hotel content within a couple of days, and it only costs us like a couple £100. So their job has changed quite a lot. It's gone from like trying to kind of coordinate this data together and writing something themselves, then just piping this data through some prompts and then tweaking the content and the prompts themselves afterwards. And it's allowed them to kind of shift their focus from writing content to actually managing the way that we're thinking about SEO. So that's really delivering some huge benefits kind of operationally. We're doing the same sort of thing with images, like on the selling side, where just kind of optimization and selection of images has been really helpful. But I suppose the 2 things would be like the platform, like making sure our platform can like leverage all of the new capabilities that are coming out has been really key. And then as we were doing that, integrating into like Gen AI has been, we're seeing some really good operational benefits there.
Nice. I mean, the time saved with the on the operational benefits is insane, and I mean, I feel like that comes up regularly around product descriptions and images. We have a lot of guests from retail on the show, and that's where they see a lot of benefit with Gen AI at the minute as well. Yeah,
and also just as we're kind of moving into different markets as well. So we move into Germany. It cost us about 250 grand to be able to do the translations for the website. However, that was it took them about 3 months to translate all the content, cost an absolute fortune. We now use kind of Gen AI tools. It's costing us hundreds of pounds rather than like thousands of pounds to be able to do that. We can do it in days and hours rather than months. So it's just allowing us to kind of take the thing that we've got and just move a lot faster.
Nice. And I believe you've also got a rather successful chatbot, which is also built using Gen AI.
Yeah, it's got Gen AI integrated into it 100%. So it's got a really interesting story. So during COVID, so my 5.5 years covered COVID. So joining the fastest growing business in the UK, growing great guns until like the end of the first year when COVID hit. So that was exciting. So we went in, changed from a business that was essentially selling holidays to a business that was refunding holidays for a little bit.
Not ideal.
I know. So we went
not how you saw the first year panning out, I guess.
No, definitely not. And we went from serving something like 30,000 requests from customers a year to like in a few months receiving like 300,000 requests for these refunds for customers. And we were kind of underwater. Like it was really difficult to get through them all. it's really important to us to provide a great post-booking customer experience. We weren't able to do that just because of the volume. So luckily, and another colleague that I'd worked with previously, a guy called Eugenio, he'd been thinking about like chatbots and the new kind of evolution of these platforms and their application in contact centers, alongside a guy called Tom Smith. And those two came in and just seen this as a huge opportunity to be able to actually apply this technology. So not letting that kind of disaster go to waste was they built the first version of Sandy, and it was there to just start that kind of refund process. So it was the thing that initially got our heads back above water during COVID to start like getting to top of the refunds, like allowing their kind of the contact center a little bit more space to do other things. But from that kind of initial inception where we've seen its utility, Sandy's grown now to have, it can solve, well, 500 different intents. So you can ask it 500 different things and it'll be able to give you an answer for those, which is pretty crazy. What that results in is, from a chat perspective, a 55% automation rate of chats. So if you're having a conversation with Sandy, our chatbot, more than half of the time, it can help you without an agent, which is like
that's massive, right?
The efficiencies that it drives are really impressive, but it allows us to kind of really invest that back into the customer experience that we want to provide. So we can use our people for the more complex, kind of compassionate kind of things that we need to do for people on holiday, rather than just the like information about a booking, for instance. And we can start automating a lot of those areas. And recently, I think there's been two big advancements that we've made with Sandy recently. The first being Sandy can now speak, so you can have a conversation with it, which it's honestly really interesting to hear how that works. It's not one of those like press 1 for this, press 2 for that. It's a natural conversation. Sometimes it's a little bit slow to react, but it's it's early days. But you can say an example would be somebody rings up about their kind of luggage allowance. Sandy can then take you through, gets your booking reference, can just ask you what you want. It can then understand, using Gen AI, a summary of your baggage allowance for your flights, read it back to Sandy, and then also asks if you want to text. And if you do, it sends that information by text message as well. And so that's like that entire kind of loop or conversation completed. So it's really impressive when you hear it, and it's just getting better and better.
Last time we spoke, you gave me a sneak peek of it, and I must say it was cool. I was really impressed.
Yeah, the thing recently, so it's started out just with text. Now it can speak, and we've just recently taught Sandy to German, so it's now helping our German customers too. So again, very quickly getting up to those like super high levels of kind of automation in those markets. It's just another way, an example of like using a platform to be able to make your business much more efficient and just go that much faster.
When you say you recently taught Sandy German, like, tell me more about that. How do you teach it German? Is that something that you can do almost instantly, or does that take a bit of time?
Yeah, to be clear, it wasn't me. I German. My actual language skills are pretty poor. So it was the team themselves. It's the capability that we build on from Google. So we're just building on the technology that Google provides. We just overlay this with our understanding about the travel market. So yeah, we don't have multiple different chatbots. We have like one chatbot that can that handles the things in each of the different markets. We have conversational designers that kind of that work on that. There's a lady called like Juliana who came from the QA team in the contact center. So it was a really interesting kind of transition from her. So like using her kind of expertise and understanding of like listening to all those bad calls, like understanding what customers need, moving to then actually designing conversations in such a way that gives the customers the experience that they want. It's a really interesting thing. So used that same approach again as we've moved into Germany, where we're taking some of our agents and we're training them into like conversational designers, and it will be those who will be helping us like train Sandy specifically for the German market. And as we kind of replicate out across Europe, we'll be doing a similar thing.
Yeah, I find it really cool. And chatbots are, in my opinion, one of the I don't want to say easiest things businesses and brands can implement to improve customer experience, but they're certainly up there with something almost every company can improve on to improve their customer experience. Because as a customer, there isn't anything anyone hates more, in my opinion, than being sat on hold. You've got some dreadful music. You often don't know how long you're actually going to be on hold for, and automatically you're like, "Oh, I'm going to be here for at least an hour." And in most cases, you are. So I think having a good chatbot just improves that customer experience so much. And then, like I said, in your case, 55% of the time, I think you mentioned, the customer gets the answer that they want, and that's massive.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it might not be perfect, but you get it straight away, as you said. And what that means is those 55% of the people aren't in the queue in front of everybody else who've got something a little bit more kind of complicated.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that.
So if those kind of, 5 or 6 minutes of like a conversation and a wrap up and those sort of things, that all goes away. And then we can just like, we're able to kind of just like deflect's the wrong word, but like answer people's like queries like as soon as possible and reduce the amount of contacts that into that contact center to be able to actually like respond to the to the more complicated things, as I said, right? It just gets everybody out of the way. So yeah, it's been really kind of beneficial. We've seen CSAT rise, NPS increase off the back of it. We have some like really interesting feedback as well. Like an old lady kind of sent some feedback. She's like, I can't believe I've been helped by a robot. Like, what will
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like, so we've still got a lot to work on. Like, it's still like we don't want to kind of rest on our laurels. We know where there are issues, but we've invested a lot of time in it and kind of pretty proud about the things that we've done. We've won a number of awards for it as well. So it's yeah, we're at the kind of the bleeding edge a lot of the time with this stuff.
Nice. And do you think that you'll get to a point, or we will get to a point where chatbots can solve 75% or more, 90% or more? Where do you think the limitations are?
Like for us, the limitations are in our kind of our own platform. So it's without going into kind of the nuances of like the loveholidays business model. Those package combinations, of which there's like 6 trillion, like the problem that we have is for every one of those packages we have to fulfill. And as I said, the travel industry isn't really that technology savvy, so those integrations are often like can be manual, and that kind of ends up restricting the capability of applying like what a chatbot can do over the top of it. So we're part of our strategy is trying to how are we going to try and address this? How can we make it so we can apply increasingly automated things on top of the platform that we have. So as that kind of progresses out, I think we'll be able to kind of like continue to push more and more for various different things. But we really think about it in combination with the user experience that we want to provide. We've recently hired in the contact center world somebody to look at service design. So really cool guy called Andrew. He came from Camelot, so working with lottery winners, which was kind of cool. So now he's helping design like the service for our holidays. And what he's kind of thinking about is the experience end to end, from like the way that we communicate customers through email, the way that we're kind of thinking about designing our on-site experience. So we're trying to build something that's self-serve. It's like everything you can do in your hand. Like where do chatbots fit in? Where do people fit in across that? Across the kind of the post-booking, the requirements that customers have post-booking. So there will be always things that like customers like don't want to speak to a robot for, an AI for. So you've had an incident on holiday, you need to speak to somebody like immediately. They need to be like empathetic. They need to like help you out straight away. Like we're never going to put anything like that in front of an AI. Like it's and so there's you know, if it's just something like what are my flight details, more than happy to provide that just as an AI response.
Got yeah. There's someone that's not in the industry. I don't have any idea as to what percentage of sort of queries are like deeply personal and situations where you need a human behind the phone, and others that are slightly more standard. But if you can get to a point where the chatbot does all of the standard queries, then it's like you said, it just frees up time for people to not be on hold, to have those conversations about the important matters. And often those important matters are the ones that are close to heart, and they're a bit more stressful, and they need to be resolved quicker than someone knowing what their luggage allowance is, for example, right? So
Which you can find out, yeah, quite. And you're right. And then it's just really being able to provide that next level customer service for people. So right, like we're taking these kind of efficiencies and like folding them into the experience that we're trying to that we're providing for customers. Like we feel like there's an opportunity to like build on the choice that we have as a online travel agent, like the trillions of offers that we kind of produce. And match that with like an ease of like post booking that's more like an Uber experience. It's like some combination of that was going to kind of differentiate us from everybody else in travel, because we'll be able, like nobody else can do both of those things. You can perhaps do one of them, but not the other. So you know, the tour operators being vertically integrated can offer a great experience, but they don't offer the choice in that kind of integrated way. So we hopefully can manage them both.
I like that. I like how you mentioned about being the Uber of the industry, and that's going to be your differentiator. It kind of leads me on nicely to the next question, which is focused around innovation within the industry and how you feel that sits compared to other industries that you've worked in, for example.
Oh, so innovation in travel. Well, I think that's kind of interesting. Like coming into travel, like loveholidays was in the UK, like one of the most innovative companies in travel. It's one of the reasons I kind of joined.
Do you think that's because it's relatively new in comparison to some of the others, so that it's got that kind of more fresh and modern approach?
Yeah, and I think it was just also a combination of the way that the founders were able to connect together, like understand the challenges that customers had, and like solve those in like with technology in interesting ways. So that kind of what not where search that I talked about was still nobody's replicated it. So it's been an innovation from like quite early. So the innovation, as I said, in travel is not necessarily like I was probably working at one of the most innovative like companies in travel. What we've really been doing is kind of expanding our kind of view out by not just hiring people who used to work in travel, but hiring from a whole different set of sectors and applying learning from those sectors into how we're thinking about travel. So I've mentioned my colleague George. He came from a trading firm in Chicago called DRW that do high frequency volume trading. So you know they are like super innovative, thinking about things in like very interesting ways. So stacks of PlayStations to do stuff on. So bringing that kind of mentality has helped hugely. The same in like across the kind of the set of different leads we have here. It's applying like experiences that we've had in different areas. Like myself from working in price comparison, one of the things that we did really well there was like sharing data back with our partners and building relationships using data. So the kind of reciprocity that kind of creates. We're providing a view of the market, which allows them to optimize their pricing. And there's I could talk for hours about that because it's one of my favorite things that we built. But like those kind of ideas that we can apply into this industry as well. Yeah, so it's more about like taking the CEO here kind of often refers to like navel gazing, which is we're always like very kind of inward focused in our process, not our customers. And equally, we need to look out not just the travel, but the kind of marketplaces in general, and take inspiration from those, like like places like Auto Trader, Airbnb definitely, but like looking outside of the like travel itself to find that kind of innovation and how we want to approach it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it sounds silly, but I mean, the amount of conversations I have with people and companies that say, well, we want people with experience within our industry. And whilst I understand there are certainly many pros to that, you're going to be limited in terms of the new ideas that come forward because they're always going to be learning from people within the industry. Whereas if you hire from outside, like you said, looking at from a trading platform, looking at targeting companies like Auto Trader, etc. I think you mentioned the chat coming from Camelot as well. You're bringing in all these different industries and ideas, and they're all coming together to then take Love Holidays and the travel industry to new heights, basically.
Yeah, exactly that. And so it's that kind of collaboration of like people from a very like diverse set of backgrounds, like diverse set of skills, working together on a kind of this problem, like just brings so much. And that to be clear, that also includes the experts in travel that are here. And it's a combination of all that I think that works really well. And so if you're just kind of very kind of myopic and just think about just the, I only want people who've got this skill, you're missing out on so much. Like I suppose, like as I mentioned, my initial part of my career was consultancy, so working through a number of sectors. And the thing that I found like really interesting was just the, the commonality of those things, like learning about like how those business models work, how technology applies to it. Move on to the next one. Move on to the next one. And it's really kind of easy to pick up like the business model stuff, if I'm honest. Like the harder thing is the underlying skill. So you can bring out, if you bring all of those skills together, you get really interesting outcomes. And that's essentially why we create the teams in the way that we do at Love Holidays. We have co-located cross-functional teams where we set them up with everything that you need to operate independently. So in a product team, it'd be designers, analysts, engineers, product people, everybody that you would need to solve that problem, like working together to be able to do that. To be able to exploit that kind of thing that you're saying, where it's lots of different skills are needed to the solutions you get from people with lots of different skills are much better.
Yeah, I like it. It's bringing the best of all the worlds together, right? And making a dream team, for want of a better phrase. Nice. No, it's I find it really cool. Do you feel as though you need to be like quite brave as a business and in your decision making process to do that? Because it's different, right? Going, okay, well, we're going to hire someone from a completely different industry to come into this industry, or do you feel that's what all businesses should be doing?
It's a blend. I think the person that's really kind of the brave person in the organization is the CEO. Like it's him that's kind of backed a lot of this and driven it out. So during COVID, lots of people were, laying people off, like keeping people at home. We invested in our technology platform. We took that opportunity to kind of really like push those things forward. So in those sorts of areas, it's him who's often always like pushing us to work collaboratively, pushing us to work together. He's again brought people from like different industries. He doesn't come from travel himself as well. Doesn't come from like necessary consumer. It was like more B2B industries. So but you can like even with him, you can see just how it's his wealth of experience, and it's his managerial experience, and it's his like understanding of data that's the thing that's like making him so effective. It's not his travel knowledge. Very quickly, he got up to speed with travel, and then you can just like working at a different level. So yeah, it's all driven from the kind of CEO down. It's just a privilege to work in that kind of environment with somebody who kind of is that brave, like backs those kind of decisions and pushes you forward. So, I mean, he's brave in other ways as well. Like he gives people a lot of autonomy as well. So it's he backs you, gives you a lot of space to be able to do that. It holds you to account. Don't get me wrong. Right? If you get things wrong, there's not many times you're going to be able to get things wrong, but you've got the opportunity to do that, which I found.
Yeah, well, I mean that's important, right? Like going back to what we said at the start, right? You don't lose, you learn. So you need to get things wrong sometimes, right? You don't go your whole career getting everything right. And you're probably lucky if you do. Um,
I think you have to continue getting a bit luckier though, the more senior you get.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. You run out of second chances, don't you, quite quickly. All right. So let's wrap up with a little bit of fun then. So how do you see the next 5 years planning out? What sort of predictions do you have within the within sort of the technology within travel?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't. We find it kind of difficult to kind of build roadmaps for like 6 months, let alone like
Okay.
what's going to happen for like 5 years.
5 years, a bit optimistic then.
So, I could probably tell you what's going to happen next week, but over 5 years. The I suppose broadly, it's the building on what I've said previously. It's just the increased commoditization of capabilities that were proprietary or kind of built in organizations, and the kind of integration into businesses that make them much more efficient and to be able to kind of like scale much quicker. I just see that kind of continuing. So that would be like definitely Gen AI. You can see how that's kind of like transforming people's jobs. I kind of given 2 examples where content people are now thinking about SEO rather than writing content, or QA team are designing like a conversational designers. They're not like QAing software. We're just about to kind of roll out the insights tool from Google, which is going to enable us to move from 2% of calls being QA'd to 100% of QA calls being QA'd by AI. So it's these sort of like the ability to kind of integrate these tools into your organization is going to be like, I think one of the most important things that you're gonna have to do. It's moved like technology from like being a competitive advantage to now being almost like, if you don't have it, you're not going to be able to survive. Like you can see that, you can see that from our growth. We're just so much better across this like the value chain, and it's that kind of improvements that we've made that have allowed us to kind of like continue grow quickly. So I see broadly from that perspective, there'll be just more and more kind of consolidation of those that are able to kind of adapt their platforms to continue to integrate these new technologies, to find ways of differentiating. And if you haven't had the flexibility in your technology to be able to do these like historically, they're going to start kind of really like falling away. So I suppose so for Love Holidays, then specifically we've got some like really kind of exciting kind of ambition. Like we do have that kind of flexible platform. We do have the capabilities in front of us. We're already like on the front foot. We're integrating. We're already rolling out into more markets. It took us 3 months to launch in Germany. It took us 2 weeks to launch in Austria. All the tools that we have available are there in new markets. So for the next kind of 5 years for Love Holidays, it's just kind of a continued replication of our model across more product lines, more markets, more customers.
And every time getting quicker with the with its go-to-market time.
Yeah, quicker, more efficient, and those things from an organization, and then using all of this to kind of invest in creating like amazing experiences for customers. So like using that to kind of, we've got like choice, value, and ease are kind of our kind of core tenets about what we want to provide for customers. And all of these kind of capabilities will give you much more choice in a much more like easy way, and you'll get a lot more value because of the efficiencies that we're providing. And so hopefully, like, you know, just enabling people to kind of continue to have those actual real offline experiences that they would enjoy. So, you know, lying on a beach, like experiencing different cultures, meeting new people, like a little bit of a break, all of those things that we're kind of facilitating for people, we can provide to an increasingly wide kind of population.
Okay, and going back to your point around the use of AI not giving you an advantage, but needing it to survive, is there a point in the near future in which you would say, Joe, what if in 3 or 4 years you're not using it, then there's a good chance you won't be around, or are we not quite at that point yet?
I think that things kind of fail very slowly. I suppose, like, but with AI, I think what I was trying to kind of articulate previously was just like the levels of improvements that you're getting from AI are just night and day. So like the idea of like 2,000 hotels moderated in a month to 40,000 like hotels written in a couple of days for 600 quid, like that. The difference of that is night and day. Like, you know, the ability to like translate that entire content like within a few hours to a new market is, you know, is transformative. The idea of like 55% of all your contacts just being like handled by an AI, or 15%, that's only going to grow. And so those efficiencies are what are kind of weaving into kind of our margin percentage. And our margin percentage then is just going to kind of grow. And if you're not able to keep up with us, like it's just very quickly that the businesses like separate out. And it's kind of hard to, if you're on that kind of downward spiral, if your kind of like business flywheel isn't going in the right direction, it's really hard to kind of kick it off. And we've been like very lucky at Love Holidays, you know, like having the CEO that we have, who, you know, driven us to be technology first, and it's that really kickstarted that flywheel, and we just have to kind of keep it going. So for the businesses, if you're not there yet, it's like, well, you're competing against different things, right? If you don't have a chatbot that's competing at 55%, like you're going to have to do 55% more calls. Like how are you going to handle that? So it's those sorts of things where it's going to get harder for those businesses that can't, like, very, very quickly.
Yeah, well, at a real basic level, it gives you more margin to play with, right? Whether you then keep that as profit, or you put that back towards the customer, or you reduce your costs, or whatever it might be, it's only putting you in a better position than your competitors.
Yeah, we're using that to kind of continue to invest in our platform. So we're continue to kind of build the kind of technology moat that we have from all the businesses, and we're just going to continue driving forward. We've got a roadmap of stuff over the next 18 months, which is continuing to really like transform how we're thinking about like our platform and how it's going to be replicable across Europe. So so in just like thinking about how that applies to kind of like Love Holidays, I think that's true for many kind of businesses, many sectors, where you need to really have that technology strategy. It needs to be at the heart of like of your business, of the strategy that you're thinking about. If you don't, I think you're going to get left behind pretty quickly.
All right. So final question then, as someone with technology very close to their heart, is it possible for us to see a unicorn run by a single person in the future?
I think that's what they say. I reckon you can. The way I describe this would be my son wanted to create a YouTube channel, and so I gave him access to kind of ChatGPT. I provide him a business case document about how you should write that, and he used ChatGPT to like write the business case, to get some money from me, to then invest in like building a Minecraft server on his own, to set up the Minecraft server, to then like attract his friends to kind of coming to play on it. He negotiated with like some developers to build some things. Like he did this all on his own. Like
okay.
And he's like 13 years old.
I was going to say, how old is he? 13. Okay, all right.
So like, and this is, and so, you know, the ability that he's got with these sort of tools to like, you know, write a business case to get some money, to like write emails more effective, describe the thing that he's doing, to set these things up, to learn how to use like tools and stuff. This is just a kind of a small example of a 13-year-old boy who's like trying to kind of set his own business, which is like, so if you then apply that to much more kind of like bigger problems like that people are applying with people with more experience, you can just see how like it's very, very likely.
I love hearing stories like that. I find it so motivating. Just people just going off and, like you said, putting a business case together and then using ChatGPT or another tool just to do all of this at such a young age. I would never have thought of that at the age of 13.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who still struggle to use ChatGPT now, yeah, which is worrying. I mean, it's the same, like people don't really realize the kind of power of those things. It is if you use them right, it's just a tool. they can just make you go faster. And that's like it's like the difference between like walking and driving a car. You just got to get there a lot quicker, in a much more kind of powerful way. Don't get me wrong, there's some limitations. It's not all great, but if you use it for what it's good for, yeah, you'll get the speed at which you can like burn through ideas, like write stuff, like build things out, is phenomenal.
I feel like we could probably sit and talk about this for at least another half an hour. And Joe, I'd love to rack your brains further as someone that clearly knows a hell of a lot about the Chat GPT and Gen AI. But I'm going to need to let you get back today. I think we're coming to an end of the conversation. But thank you very much. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Like I said, I feel like we could have sat here and spoke for at least another half an hour and probably longer.
I tend to waffle on, so apologies.
Not at all. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I think I learned a lot in that conversation, and I'm sure our listeners have too. Certainly, a lot of really interesting insights, a lot of data, and if not, like you just explained exactly how you've used technology to expand Love Holidays and get it to the point in where it is as a business today.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks again for joining me. I know we're not quite as glamorous as the Google travel event, but hey, you never know what's around the corner. But look, thanks to everyone that's listened. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation as much as I have. Please do continue to like, share, and subscribe. It really does go a long way. And I'll see you next time. Thanks again, Mike.
Cheers, man.